Yeah, go. I've got it. Enough of that. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Sunday edition of the show, Tottenham Till I Die. I also, in conjunction with, and Ellie's with us as well, Tel Cockerell. Dave, you're a little bit dark, but I'm just going to introduce everybody to the panel. First of all, a newbie for us online is Coach Dave, who I did a show with on Tuesday night and has some wonderful insights into the tactical aspects of the game. So good evening to you, Dave. Jose, with the cup in front of you, from most of you will know from Tel Cockerell. Good evening, Jose.
Good evening, everyone. Hope you're all well.
Queen Ellie, welcome tonight. Hope you're well.
Yeah, have you noticed I've had a name change?
Who has?
Myself, Queen Ellie Van der Ven. So I can't go wrong with Van der Ven. Come on.
Queen Ellie Van der Ven. Okay, brilliant. And Adrian. Good evening to Adrian.
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm, you know me, full of beans and enthusiasm as usual. Can't wait to get going.
Couple of people in the chat. We should say good evening to Paul G. Welcome aboard. Good evening, all. I'm not actually sure who. This is going wild tonight. Johnny Bethnal Green. I know you were somebody else because I picked that up in the chat, but I'll work out, or you can message me who you are, but or who you were. But good evening to you. And Bergville already playing Ange Ball. We will come to that, I promise you, Peter. Good evening to you. And David Clark, great to hear Solanke won't be coming because Bournemouth want 65 million. Well, I can tell you that's very much on our agenda tonight. And I sincerely hope you're right, but people may have other opinions. So we're going to start, though, as we always do, with yesterday's match. And we'll start with a team from that started yesterday's game. Dave, what was your thoughts about the team that started yesterday?
Yeah, it was another interesting lineup, isn't it? Our centre backs aren't back, So it's a bit of a cobbled back five. Everyone at different levels. Poro's been there all along. I think he's played every game, isn't he? But then Dragusin's pretty much only just stepped back onto the training pitch. So it's a bit of a hodgepodge, and I think the performance kind of borne out in the same way. Obviously, with the news that Emerson is pretty much like £0.6 million away from leaving the club, we're now in a situation where Spence is going to get some sort of run. Unusual to see him at left back, but we've played attacking midfielders at left back in recent games. With Jamie Donnelly filling in, so it's one of those ones where I think we're just getting through the training camp, in South Korea. But the rest of the team, pretty straightforward in terms of I like Archie Gray. I've liked his profile. and to see him maybe getting a run in the 6 position, Sarr, Madison, pretty straightforward, and Son through the middle. Son in the front 3. Obviously, we'll talk about tactically how they kind of lined up. So pretty straightforward, apart from that back 5, which was kind of cobbled together. Going up against a relatively strong Bayern Munich side. They had some of their top players in there, or at least some of their top prospects. So it was interesting to see how they fared, especially in that first half.
Jose, I'll talk to you, come on to you, because I'll come back on individual performances in a moment. What was your thoughts about that team? Pretty well as predicted, or?
Yeah, it's not far. I mean, are you talking? Yeah, it's not far from what I thought it would be. It's not what I wanted, because I still wanted Bergvall to start. I wanted Bergvall and Gray both to start in the midfield, and if possible, I wanted to see if Mikey Moore could have got a start up front, because we see a lot of these players come on in the second half and play with all the youngsters, and I wanted to see some of them playing with the first teamers or supposed first team players or first 11. Yeah, it weren't too far from what I thought it would be, but preferably, I would have liked to seen a couple of more changes there.
Okay, we'll certainly come on to that, and perhaps where Ange sees the starting lineup 2 weeks tomorrow. Ellie, your own thoughts, that starting lineup?
Yeah, I'm with Jose. I would have liked to see Bergvall pair up with Gray, because I think he looks like a lost sheep without his spar. Like somebody he can play with, and they're the same age, and they've hit a good rapport. They get on. You can see in the training sessions they've had together, they've always been together. So I just was a bit disappointed not to see Mikey Moore as well, because I think he's been a revelation in pre-season so far, and his movement and his touch. It would have been lovely to shake up and give those front 3 something to think about, that they're not going to get a start, and he's sort of gone back to like what he usually plays, and it's a bit dry and we know what we're going to get from them, and last season they let us down by finishing 5th. Really, they could have got 4th easily. 5 out of 6 games they lost in the last 6. So I was very disappointed, actually, because I thought Postecoglou could have seen the youngsters perform at this level with a better team, because we've been playing lesser teams come to fit, like QPR Hearts. They're not exactly world beaters, are they? But Bayern Munich are up there with the very best. So I would have liked to see them like pick their skills and see what they can do. But it wasn't to be. It wasn't to be. Shame.
Adrian, 2 votes for Mikey Moore, 2 votes for Bergvall. What's your view? I know you're a big fan of these kids.
Yeah, but actually, what surprised me with the lineup was the newfound faith that Ange has found in Spence to give him a go at left back, because he's played Donnelly there. He could have moved Davies there and brought Royal in as a centre back alongside Dragusin, but he didn't. So this is very telling that Spence got his, got the go at left back. I also noticed that Sarr started all these games, so we know he's a firm favourite. And although, the jury's out on Johnson still, he virtually started every game. And what was noticeable to me is like the faith in Porro, because he was the last player to be subbed to make the total 11 changes, So I'll leave it there until you go on to the game. But I wasn't really thinking of forwards bringing them in. At this time, I thought, I thought it'd be the usual, it'd be in the second half. But surprised Donnelly didn't start at left back again. And the fact that Spence was given the nod is very telling, I think. I think he's got a future at the club.
Yes.
Well, let's go back to you, Dave. What particularly? We'll talk about the first half only at this stage. But what did you think about the performance, tactics, application?
Yeah, it was a tired performance. I think it's best to say. It's definitely a performance of a team that's been doing double sessions in extraordinary heat, and it's one of those games that we saw it, didn't we? Saw it at the end of last season. Loose in possession, really basic errors, loose passing, just playing a bit flat-footed. I think, the way when Ange ball, as they like to say, when it's at its best, everyone's playing on their toes. Every position is very fluid. The movement's really there. It's, the combinations are really slick. And I think, one thing that we've kind of commented on, when we've spoken, obviously, privately in different forums, everyone's looking at this new kind of formation with whether you want to call it a false nine or Kulusevski playing as more like a 10 behind the two forwards. All that kind of gives us an extra level of possession. It gives us an extra person as an outlet. But if that person can't hold on to the ball, then it's pointless. If no one's making the necessary runs, if the combinations aren't there, then it just all falls apart. And we were very narrow in our build-up. We weren't really getting out quick enough. And against a team like Bayern, I mean, who they had Kimmich, Pavlovic, Gnabry, Tell. These are all, top players, who walk into a lot of teams across Europe. And they were just playing on their toes, and they nicked the ball off us so easily, and got into their attacking patterns very easily. We didn't adjust into our defensive shape very well, which is why they created as many chances as they did. The error for that first goal, Vicario, he knows us on him. Played a bit of a blind pass into a blind area, but again, if you're on your toes a bit, you can probably react a little bit quicker to that. For all our players. But I think that was symptomatic of how that first half kind of panned out, and I think by the end of it we were really hanging on, and I saw some comments. It's like Munich had mercy on us at some points, because it could have been 2-3, maybe even a little bit more, if we're being a bit honest.
Yeah.
But I think they kind of they were taking shots, but we've seen when Bayern Munich really want to put us to the sword, thinking about back to the Champions League, if anyone wants to go down Nightmare Alley. Yeah, maybe not. So yeah, it was one of those ones where a very tired performance, but as upset as I was at the application, why they're not competing, why they're not, when I thought about it, I've had a bit of time since the game, and I thought, listen, it's tough conditions. They've been out there for a while. Players playing in the wrong positions. They've been doing the double sessions. You can tell that the team is on their last legs a bit in terms of the 2-week camp. Let's see what happens in the next game, return fixture, back on home soil, with some of the other players returning.
Jose, a little bit of same old yesterday, yeah?
Yeah,
you did the watch along.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with Coach Dave that listen, what's happened in the last 2 weeks has benefited those that have flown out on the tour. Yeah, those that have flown out on the tour have been flogged like horses, big time. Pardon the pun, because I know you love horses, Ian, and so do I. But yeah, they've been absolutely drilled and knackered to the point, of no return. Is it the right thing to play a game of football? Possibly not for these players, but a game had to be played. I feel that there was a step up in class in opponent. Obviously, that could be seen a mile away. And what I will say is that this coming week, when they fly back in the Hotspur away, this coming week there'll be some gentle training for them leading up to the game against Bayern and beyond. And we're now in the home straight, so to speak, getting ready for the season. Now the hard work's been done. They've broken the back of the pre-season, so to speak. So they were absolutely flogged yesterday. Was a step up in class, like I said, and it doesn't matter who played for Bayern in the first half and who played for Bayern in the second half. They've got a good squad of players there. They also had players missing from their squad, but I mean, I was kind of thrown because I think to myself, why do they look so much fitter than us? because they did. They looked so much fitter than us. And I thought to myself, and on my show, I said, because I did the watch along, I asked someone, because someone tell me when Bayern start their league program, because I thought it was like going to be 3 weeks after us because they were so fit. And someone said, no, they start the same weekend the Premiership does. So basically, they haven't been doing double flog sessions like we have. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I think it'll stand us in good stead for the season. It's been a proper pre-season, unlike last season's pre-season, which became an absolute farce and debacle. It was more travelling around to places and flying to lots of different places without any meaningful games and stuff. And we seem to be in the air as often as we were on the ground, which doesn't make you for a settled pre-season. And then having games cancelled and playing against pub teams and that. It was last season was an absolute horror show. But this season, they've had a proper season, pre-season, and the players that have been on it will absolutely benefit from it from day one of the season. Whether they remain at the club, whether they go out on loan, they will benefit. And if some of our players go out on loan, the teams that receive our players will benefit from it.
Ellie, you're another one with some coaching experience. Does it worry you that the established first team players, the Sars, the Madisons, the Johnsons of this world, don't appear to be as effective as the Bergvals and the Mikey Moores and some of the other young players that are coming through?
Yeah, well, it does, because I just feel that the younger players have got more technical skill and they can hold the ball better, especially Bergvall. He's class when he gets the ball. Mikey Moore is another one. He's like the ball's part of his body. It sticks. Whereas when Johnson gets it, it's like a hot cake. He don't know what he's going to do. He's a bit lightweight in terms of his physique, so he can't really overpower the stronger defenders. And he doesn't go to beat his man often. When he does, he doesn't take enough risks in my book for a winger, Johnson. And the other two, I don't know, it's all much of the muchness because we've seen it all before and there's nothing different. They've not improved as players in terms of their physicality. They haven't proved that they're technically better than the youngsters, and they're not scoring as many goals as they should do, right? So I think it's time for a freshen up at Spurs, and we need to get these other signings in, but we'll come to that later. But in terms of their fitness, I wanted to pick up on what Jose and Coach Dave said. They should be bloody fit because they're men who are training week in, week out, right? They should be as fit as those German players. And because they're not, it's quite worrying because, all right, they've played a lot of games and they've travelled, right? And sometimes you do get a bit jet lagged, I must admit, because I've travelled abroad as well and I felt a bit heavy. But in that respect, they should still be fitter than what they're showing. And I think Postecoglou's got a lot of work to do to get them into shape because his game, as they call it, Ange ball, is reliant on pressing and winning the ball back high. And if they're not doing that, a lot of the time what we saw last season, the team crumbled and we were relying on Van der Ven to get us out of a lot of pickles. Yeah, so I want to see more enthusiasm to win the ball, especially up top, because I didn't see much of it. Not as much as I'd like to see. And I'd like to see the boys working on their physiques as well, because I think some of them are lightweight and they get the ball nicked off them. And the passing, some of it was bad, really bad. And I was thinking, what's going on? They're supposed, we don't, I want players to take more of a chance as well, with the ball, take a few more risks, because it's pre-season. It's not a competitive game. Right, so they can do little tricks here and there, like Pulu's been doing with his flicks. I love that bit of expression in football, not just pass, because it kills the game when you don't see expression in the game. So I'm looking for that in the next game, and I hope they do improve, Ian.
Adrian, there's an awful lot for you to get your teeth into. I know you're a big disciple of the youngsters, but Dave and Jose and Ellie have spoken about a number of things that I want to talk about. First of all, is the fact that we don't pass the ball as well as we should. We lose the ball too easily, and we're vulnerable on the counter. And that doesn't appear to be changing at the moment. What's your thoughts?
Positional play is what I've been noticing. What's happening is one of our midfielders, say the deep line midfielder, picks the ball up. Everyone's so eager to get forward that even if one of them there loses the ball, suddenly everyone's racing back to win the ball back. You know, I mean, you might have like two midfielders there, but like I think their intelligent awareness should like click in like when to go and when to stay. I mean, and we were losing it in midfield. Admittedly, Gray didn't have his best game, but neither did Maddison, did he? And even Sarr, who we all love, you know, again, it was because they pressed us high. Well, then, like, when it's not working, what are the players on the pitch? You don't change to plan B, right? I don't believe in plan B. I mean, you bring subs on to change the game and give you something different. You don't suddenly change to revert to another plan. That never happens. I always thought that's a myth. But you need them to gel, you know. Then if you've got your captain on this Sunday and this isn't working, okay, drop back 5 yards. Don't push everyone up so high. If your winger's going to hug the touch line, but say on the halfway line. Start getting a foothold into the game. And another thing, we're under pressure, and this is a constant grouse with me, right? Our throw-ins are utter crap. They are rubbish. Right, I mean, there's no two ways about it. I remember when, in a bit before, maybe all of your times, in 1980, before Spurs went on a successful run with the Argentinians, Crystal Palace were tipped to be the team of the 80s. Now they had a captain called Jim Cannon. They come to Tottenham with Terry Venables as a manager, right? And they were taking throw-ins, right? And they were throwing the ball behind their back line because you can't be offside from a throw. Now, you can't tell me. Now, I mentioned this once to Chris Callan because I know him quite well. And I was chatting to him and he laughed at me. I said, I'm serious. And at the time, I think Northern Ireland had a set piece coach who went to join Villa and things like that. I said, it's not a question to keep bringing coaches in. Coaches should know how to do this. There should be a way of working throw-in drills. I mean, if you asked any Spurs fan, who's got the longest throw in the team or whatever. And according to where you are to do a drill, obviously, if you're in the final third, you'd hope someone's got a long throw just to cause the opposition a bit of problems. But the throw-ins, I mean, we see foul throws every game, don't we now? I mean, like any side's playing. But I just thought every time we had a throw-in, even then Bayern Munich won the ball off us. I mean, what's going on? I mean, I know with the throw-in, you are disadvantaged. You win the throw. You've got the advantage of the ball. But you've now got the guy with the throw, so they've got 10 outfield players to your 9. So you need to work a way around this. There are ways, like if you know that a ball's going to be thrown into an area of a space from a certain position on the pitch, it wouldn't be hard to instill this into players, right? Then you know and you can progress. I just thought, yeah, that's my rant on throw-ins. But like, if we don't look, we've all been saying it. You know, last year when we were losing the midfield battle, we didn't have anyone who could dig in there and get us out of hole. Fortunately, we sort of somehow managed to steady the ship and finish top 5. But our midfield was pants last year in the latter half of the season, you know, the last half of the season. And like, we need to be able to dig in. Now, this is one area where Ange gets a free hit because it's pre-season friendlies, it's double training and all that. He gets a free hit for that. But if this was a league game, I would expect him to make substitutions early to fix the midfield issue. Because if you don't fix the midfield issue, you're very unlikely to win the game. You know, so it's the midfield. And I thought the whole of the midfield in the first half was poor.
Does it worry you that in particular, Maddison and Sarr just don't appear to be influencing the game the way as the senior players? I know that particularly Sarr's still quite young, but the senior players, they're not influencing the game the way that senior players should. Dave, let me get you to pick up on that point.
Yeah, see, this is something I mentioned quite a lot last season when our season kind of got stuck in a rut. And what Spurs have been really good at over the past, 5-10 years is, getting a good first 11 which is competitive. Okay. And then as we got to the end of that kind of Poch era and players started leaving and whatnot, we had like a good 8 players or 7 or 8 players, and then you had your some players in the team that you might not want to play every game, but they were there, maybe a Ben Davies or Eric Dyer. I don't know what people's thoughts are on them type of players, but hey, here we are. And they were knocking around the team maybe a year or two too long, or whatever the case may be, and you're thinking, you don't want to have to play them or rely on them. Emerson Royale, for instance, you don't want to have to play him, but you give him a go, whatever. What we have is the gap between our best player and our worst player in our first 11 sometimes is too large. Mm-hmm. And then if you extend that to our squad, so you're looking at our bench, it's even wider. So that's why we can't change games. That's why sometimes we're chasing games, and it's like, we're not making subs till later on. But what it also means is that the problem is our best players have to play out of their skin every single game for 30, 35, 38 games just to keep us afloat. And, everyone has a dip, everyone has a whatnot. And what we saw at the back end of last season is our best players started to go through a dip. Son didn't score for a while. Maddison went obviously through a bit of a rut. There was a few errors. Vicario made a few errors. Sarr, I think Sarr really felt the physical effects of playing his, a first kind of full season in the Premier League as a young lad. We forget he is quite young, even though he's played a lot of football. He hasn't played a lot of football in the Premier League. So you started to see him. He was now, Sarr coming back from, I think he went to AFCON, didn't he, or whatever. He came back from injury and he came back and he was like, we were relying on him to carry our midfield. And, Bentancur was in and out of the side, and it was all a bit of a hodgepodge. And I think it's something that really, really kind of grates on me to see that sometimes you don't have that, those midfielders who can turn around, or even some of the senior players that maybe even up front, maybe like even sometimes Son, Son's good enough for it, but even like a Werner, as much as whatever your thoughts are on Werner, he's not a player who demands the ball. He's not a player who demands some sort of, he doesn't take initiative. And we don't have enough of those. Now, what we do have with the younger lot, regardless of whether they're going to sink or swim, I've said this already on different podcasts and whatnot. When we signed Bergvall, I was doing my scouting reports. I started finding as many ways to watch Djurgården. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, but I was going through it, as many internet loopholes to watch him play out in the Swedish league. Because I was very excited by what he offers us, and you can see it. He demands the ball. He'll make 3 mistakes in a row and then come back for the 4th attempt. He'll demand the ball. He's getting knocked off. I think who was it? Goretzka, with a cynical foul, snipes him down on a counter attack, gets up, dusts himself off. We go again, and we need that kind of mentality from the better players, and not seeing that is a little bit worrying, because it's all well and good when you're 10 games in and everyone's happy and you're on a bit of an unbeaten run, etc. But it's when you're in the trenches, it's the Christmas period, it's FA Cup 3rd, 4th, 5th round. It's those type of games which we know the English domestic season gives you, where it gets really tough on you as a squad. And that's why we're looking at our signings, and you want signings to come in to boost the overall quality from a technical ability. I love what was said earlier. The technical ability amongst some of the younger kids is amazing. So you want that technical ability to be better across the whole squad, but also you also want the mentality of 1 to 11, 1 to 14 to be at all-time high. And you see that in some of the better teams in the league. Even if they're not having a great season, you can rely on them to dig out results left, right, and centre, because they're going to be putting in that shift, that extra yard, the extra tackle. They're not just going to let a team come onto them and have their way, as it were.
Jose, are we a bit fickle as fans? We beat QPR, we beat the Korean League, we beat Hearts, we beat the other team in the week. Suddenly, people are optimistic. We lose to Bayern Munich, and well, it's the end of civilization as we know it.
There was apart from flying out to Asia because some money making exercises to get more fan base and stuff like that. Apart from that side of it, because let's call it what it is because of that why we go out there. We aren't the only club that do this. The majority of Premiership clubs have gone out to foreign lands to build their fan bases up and stuff. There is method behind what we're doing in the games that we've played. We've ramped up as we've gone along, the teams that we're playing, and it works out that we've ramped up alongside with when other teams start their leagues. So Hearts started yesterday with a 0-0 draw with Rangers, but we played them when they were 2 weeks shy of their league starting, and we were 4 weeks shy. We beat QPR. We played them. They're a week ahead of us. Their season starts. So you're steadily ramping up yourself against somebody else on the fitness side of it. Some people will argue, and for those that played football, and I did as well, when we played pre-season, right, I wanted to win when I played pre-season. Me personally, I wanted to win my duel. I wanted to win my match and that. Although people would have said, no, pre-season's for you to get minutes in your legs, get yourself acclimatized and stuff like that. I wanted to win at all costs. And I'm hoping that our team wants to win at all costs as well. Then obviously we've gone on that flight out to Asia. We played the K League. We played against a team in the K League that have been. Sorry, no, we played Vissel Kobe first. Vissel Kobe in Japan. 24 games into a 38 game season. So you can see the reason for playing them whilst we were out there, because they were fully into their season. We're still ramping up to get into ours. Then we played the K1 League, where they played one team of Koreans, one team of their all-stars, like the foreign-based players out in Korea, in that game. And they've been playing in the Korean League, and so we're stepping up ourselves again. And then we've now played Bayern Munich. I keep going back to, at the end of the day, when I played pre-season, I wanted to win matches as well when in pre-season. I think the lucky thing that these people have got is, if people are as old as me and remember pre-season, the first 3 weeks of pre-season, all we did was run. It's as if we were doing cross-country. We were doing the bleep test, if people remember the bleep machine. We're doing bleep runs and stuff like that, and we didn't kick a ball for 3 weeks. And we were itching to kick a ball, and that's the difference now. But we've now got another game against Bayern Munich coming up at the end of the week. It will stand us in good stead. It's a home game for us. And as I said, the strenuous part of the pre-season and the training has already happened in the last 2 weeks. So I would like to think that there'll be a different... if we should ramp up, Tottenham should be ramping up for the next game next Saturday, as opposed to where we were yesterday. And if we haven't ramped up, then I don't know how far behind we're going to be with other teams, to be honest.
Soren, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah. Welcome. A little bit but belated to the show, but I'll try and get some comments out of you. What were your thoughts? You see the game yesterday?
No, I didn't. I've watched the highlights, and I think it's like a lot of people said. We were in second gear. We didn't get going in the first half. Definitely. From what I saw, Bayern could have probably scored 2 or 3, 4 more than they did. But let's not forget, Bayern are definitely one of the big teams in Europe. It's not like we're playing a minnow team and we've got spanked by them. So I think it's the same as every time that there's a little bit of overreaction. It's pre-season. Yeah, I agree with what Jose's just said. They should be wanting to win. But at the end of the day, there's nothing riding on that game other than pride, in a sense. So I don't think it's the end of the world. The most important game for me is Leicester. That's the first game of the season. That's when we need to show up.
Yeah, I mean, tactics and fitness, are they not the most important things about pre-season, Adrian?
fitness, tactics, fitness more than tactics. You know, you've got to be up and ready. I think that's why they've been doing them double sessions. Ange mentioned that as a sort of excuse. Okay, well, like you say, it's pre-season, and in another way, it's a positive, isn't it? It's Bayern, all right. We lost by the odd goal. We could have been as Dave said, we could have been 3-0 down at half time. We hung in there. In these pre-season games, what I've noticed, though, when the kids come on, we all seem to show a lot more energy in the second half. They seem to give us a lot more energy. But
I'll come on to the second half.
Fitness over tactics to me. And we mixed it more with them in the second half, and I think that showed, and it was, funnily enough, because the youngsters come on. No tactics. No, I'm not concerned with tactics because it's not like winning the game is the all and be all and end all things when you're in pre-season. So to me, but it is fitness. It's fitness for me. Get the fitness up, get them game ready, and instill the Ange philosophy into the players. You know, the young players, which seem to have taken it on. I think they took it on board better than some of the older ones, to be honest. But so to me, it's fitness more than anything.
Ellie, in fact, I should go back to the banner. That was the first team, or the team that started the game.
Yeah.
Of those players, who do you think enhanced their reputation, and perhaps who didn't?
I think Porro and Kulusevski in particular, and Spence wasn't too shabby at left back. He was okay. You know, he's playing out of position, the lad, but he's taking it on board. He wants to be at Spurs. You can see that. So I'm really pleased for Spence because I always had prospects for him. Obviously, when Conte was in charge, he didn't like him because he was a club signing, apparently. So, well, I just feel no one else really shone as such. Maddison was a bit off it. Gray, Johnson was losing the ball, passing not so clever. Sonny was okay, nothing special, but he can play a lot better. But I thought the standout, I think Porro, his energy, I love him. I think he's a Spurs Trojan. He'll fight for every ball. He'll go for it. He'll take risks. I love him because he's one of those all-action players, you know, and he loves being at Spurs. You can see that, right? And I like every single player to get on board with the Porro energy, and because I've always liked him as a player when he was at Sporting Lisbon as well. So I just feel he was the standout. Johnson needs to do a lot more. Sarr was okay. You know, he gave the ball away a few times, but we're used to that with Sarr because he's still learning the game. And also, I think he's all-round play, Sarr. He's another one who's got the energy and the engine to get about the pitch. And we've seen it in the Premiership where he's covered every blade of every grass that he's played on. So I would never be disappointed with Sarr. The only thing I think he needs to improve is his passing a bit, you know. But if he gets that on point, you know, then we've got a fantastic player. Remember, he's only young still. So we've got a lot to look forward with Sarr. Maddison was a bit off it, but he was off it against a lot of the other teams as well. He hasn't really hit that form that we saw in the first 10 games. So, yeah, I was a bit disappointed with the overall passing of the team. It was there was no fluidity and they were losing the ball too often for my liking. So I want to see an improvement so that when we go into a proper game, that we're on point on all fronts. Yeah.
Dave, I'm going to suggest that the only players that really enhanced their reputations were Porro, Dragusin and Spence. What do you think?
Yeah, I think, like I said earlier, everyone's returned at different times. So Dragusin did look a little bit out of it at times, you know, in terms of, you know, there's a few moments where you can tell he hasn't obviously trained as much, just a bit behind the pace of the game, but, you know, he decent enough. Porro was Porro, you know, we know what we're going to get with him. Sometimes you kind of do want to tear your hair out for those of us that do have hair, in the sense that he you know, he sometimes can't judge the flight of a ball over his head into the back post, you know, but you know, he gets on it. He's trying to get down the ring and listen. When he hits the ball, he's probably got one of the sweetest strikes in the squad, you know. And I mean, I was there. Was it FA Cup, Burnley? That goal that he scored there, you know, he can hit it. You know, he can really hit it. And it was a great strike for him to get that goal. And you know, we talked about earlier, you know, having those type of players in the team, you know, those kind of mentality leaders, whatever. It was quite, you know, interesting to note he was the last one to be subbed off out of all the kind of senior players. Spence, I was a big fan when we signed him. Came in with quite a burgeoning reputation, in the sense that, you know, there's a lot of kind of talk about him, you know, in terms of being kind of a hot prospect. For whatever reason, it hasn't worked out for him so far, but credit to him, he's knuckled down and he's battled his way into the thoughts of the team. And I think it was interesting to hear from Ange in the week talking about, you know, he said he's not just impressed me, he's impressed the other coaches. So you can tell it's definitely, it's not just, you know, a case of just one person who's noticing it, you know, around the club, around the squad, you know, they're all picking up on his improvement and his kind of integration, and he's got the perfect profile for what Ange wants his fullbacks to be able to do, you know, to be able to invert, to be able to carry the ball forward. He hasn't got the distribution like Porro has, but he does have the combination play. He's got a bit more invention. He can beat a player. And it's quite interesting because he's got better 1v1 skills than Johnson does. And we're kind of stuck, you know, between a rock and a hard place with the likes of a Johnson and Werner. And I do believe that this is why Kulusevski's been moved into that kind of 10 false 9 position, because it does open up the opportunity for not having to play two wingers. We don't have to play Werner and Johnson in the same lineup. We don't have to play the limited wingers that we have, who we saw let us down game after game last season. They can't break a low block. They can't beat the player. They make the same poor decisions. You know, they're crossing the ball out for throw-ins on the other side. I always reference, you know, the North London derby last year when it was, obviously we got it back to 3-2, whatever. Johnson gets the ball and he's going, obviously playing Arsenal. They're dominant in the air. We know that because they scored 2 headers against us. And he played the same floated cross 8 times in a row when we're chasing and I'm like, dude, come on, do something different. You know, it's that kind of low IQ that I'm just like, come on, bruv, we need something, just mix it up, you know, and we don't see that from him. We don't see a little bit of invention. We don't see something. And so I think it's going to be interesting to see what Ange does moving forward in terms of, you know, looking at the Leicester game. If we do get an extra, you know, forward in, you know, in terms of lineup, but definitely I think, you know, Spence is knocking on the door, and I now don't feel a sense of panic if Porro has to miss the game or if we have to rotate in terms of Spence coming in, that I used to feel when Emerson Royale was coming in, because that used to make me kind of get a little bit shaky sometimes.
Yeah.
So.
I'm going to need to try and move this on. We've been nearly 3/4 of an hour talking about the first half, and there's a lot of transfer stuff I want to get to. But guys, there's just quickly, all of you, there's been a lot of criticism of Gray and people in the chat saying they don't get the hype. I mean, I agree, he wasn't particularly good in that 45 yesterday, but I've seen him in all of the other preseason games, and he's been absolutely superb. Soren, you seen anything?
Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of Leeds fans because it's obviously local to me.
Yeah.
And I've seen him play a couple of times, and he's good. He's good. He's a young lad. I mean, look, I've said a few times now, he'll be in our starting 11 sooner than later. It's to be expected, you know. It's not just a big step up coming to play for Tottenham for him. You're then playing Bayern Munich. You know, I mean, it doesn't matter who you are. At 18 years old, you're going to play Bayern Munich. You know, there's gonna be a few jitters in there, and he's gonna have some poor games. You know, let's not pretend that there will be parts to it where he will have poor games, but then there'll be other parts where he'll be good and he'll be strong. But when you're playing with players that he doesn't know and in a system that's brand new to him, I know people don't like hearing this, but you've got to give these youngsters that chance and the time to understand what Ange wants from him. And I'm not 100% sure what position he was playing because, like I say, I didn't see the full game, so I've only seen highlights. So
perfect timing. Soren, he was playing in the six, the DCM. Yeah. I mean, if you didn't see the game, let me try and move. Adrian, I think you're with me. I see his natural position as being in that six. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, and he showed he can do a job. He's very versatile. He played 30 games for Leeds at left back, at right back last season. I think he played 3 games as a number 10. You wouldn't like put him in the mould with his touch on the ball that Bergvall's got. You'd rather there's others in the team who'd play further forward than him. But he is what he is. He's a player really for this cam and lower area of the field, like defensive area of the field really, and he'll be fine. And I know, and I said he had a poor game yesterday. But it doesn't mean I don't like the player. I think the player's fantastic. I think it'll be, and I would like fans to get out of this talk. Oh yeah, would this player get in a starting 11? You should be thinking starting 18. You should be thinking the 11 on the pitch plus the 5 subs, the concussion subs, and a couple of spares. Even Man City can't hold a squad of 25 excellent players because they have to sell the odd few good ones they get in, the very good ones they get in that they can't give game time to. So you're looking at a squad of 18. Does he make the 18? Yes, he makes it. He walks into it. Absolutely walks into it. He's had a poor game, and again, this is Ange is learning a lot about this squad, right? Not just Bergvall. I think he will have seen a lot that he likes from these youngsters. A lot.
Ellie, that's comment that I've got from the Hotspur Hood strikes me as being ludicrously unfair. What do you think?
Yeah, look, Dan, he's only 18, right? Okay, yes, he was a little bit out of sorts, but it's his first game against the big team. He was probably nervous. I'm not saying that's a complete excuse, but he's playing for a big club like Tottenham Hotspur. We have got we've got a good name for ourselves in Europe as well because we've always done well. And when you come up against the Bayern Munichs of this world, you've got to step up. And he probably had the jitters. That's all I can say because I've seen the boy play and he can play and he's very talented. So I've got faith in him. I'm not going to give up on him just because of one game. Right, everybody can have a bad game. Even Messi can have a bad game, and Ronaldo can have a bad game. So, I've got my.
Ellie, have I lost Ellie?
Yeah, did you lose me for a bit? Okay,
yeah.
That was bad. He came to see me to see why I've got his name. Right, so have you still?
Ellie, you're breaking up a bit, so let me quickly bring Jose in. Jose, where do you stand on the Gray thing?
So, like I said previously, Gray and Bergvall have not been brought in to warm benches and to play in our academy. They've been brought to affect the first team and to ruffle feathers and put the cat amongst the pigeons. At the end of the day, you can't judge them. They haven't even started a Premiership game yet, both these guys. But let's see and judge them when they start in the Premiership. Yesterday, I do agree, the whole of the team that played the first half were all at sea. I think that Bayern pressed immensely as a team. We couldn't handle it. It's not one player's fault. It's a team effort, and we couldn't handle it as a team. I thought all 3 midfielders yesterday were very poor. And yes, because Gray started, that includes Gray, but Sarr and Maddison were poor as well. As I said, I think it's a bit. If we look at last season, right, and I said this on another show, I think it might be on yours. Said last season we went on pre-season and that it was a shambles. Yet the pre-season we went on last year, about 50%, if not slightly more, of the players that went on pre-season last year are no longer with the club this year. So it's a brand new set of players we've got going on the pre-season. And to me, the two young players that have been brought in, they've been brought in to affect the first team, and there'll be players. If players don't leave between now and the end of the window, and when I mean players, I mean some of our midfielders, whether it be a Skip or whether it be a Lo Celso, whoever it may be, right? If they don't leave now, these players will leave next season, and Bergvall and Gray would have been established first teamers by then, and then we'll get some more midfielders in. We've got to keep rotating and revolutionising the squad as we go on, and they're here. They're both here to stay. There's been some green shoots from both players in pre-season games at different times. I just think we got to get behind the two. There are players. They're Tottenham players. They will be wearing our tops. They'll be wearing our badge, and they look like they want to play with pride for the team already. We've seen that in pre-season. So give these kids a chance. Let's see, as and when they come into the team, give them a chance, and let's see if we can get behind them and help them flourish on their journeys at Tottenham Hotspur.
Well said, sir. Adrian, that's the team. Wasn't the team because the substitutions, it was easier when we did this, when we talked about the team, the first half team and the second half team. We don't have that, but over the course of the second half, those were the players that came on. Obviously a much younger average age, but a lot more energy and a lot more end product from them.
A lot more bravery as well. The difference with the younger teams, like as Dave alluded to earlier, they're not frightened to make the odd mistake, try something, try a risk and go, whereas more seasoned pros seem to be more scared of taking a risk or giving the ball away. I mean, they give us a lot of energy. Young Abbott's 18. He comes straight out of the under 18s, and like as a captain, and moved in the under 21s. I think he got the captaincy in there as well at such a young age. Divine, he was my man of the match in the second half against QPR. Nice touches yesterday. Donnelly, you've seen him at left back. As playing at left back, he came from Northern Ireland as a striker. Wayne Burnett converted him into a number 10. He's got a wicked forward defence splitting pass on him. And you see him at left back getting forward, having headers and shots at goal, And Moore, what can you say about Mikey Moore? His stats are mental. His stats are absolutely mental. They're off the scale for a player of his age. He shouldn't be doing what he's doing at his age. And he's good. But the player that really, to me, if you exclude the first half, gets man of the match is Lucas Bergvall. What a player we've got for £8.5 million. What he is going to be an absolute superstar. He came on and he put his foot on the ball. He held the ball. He's passing. He pops up everywhere like a mole in your garden. He's here everywhere. He's on the right wing, he's on the left wing. He comes back to receive the ball. He gets forward in the 10. When we played away to was it Hearts? He had 55 touches, more touches than anyone touches than anyone in the final third. I mean, don't get me wrong, he'd be the same as Gray. He'll have the odd poor game, but you're not going to play Archie Gray and Bergwall in every game next season. The squad will be rotated, and Ange will be more judged on his rotation than anything else and his substitutions than anything else, right? So, to me, Basuma, I was a little bit critical of him yesterday. I think I was on a show with Jose and he thought I was being a bit harsh. Fair enough, maybe I was. Maybe because you don't see, when you're trying to watch 22 players, you don't absorb it all. You've got to watch highlights or someone gives you the stats and then you think, okay, I was wrong about that player or whatever. I don't know, Divine's quality. I want to see Donnelly, Divine, and Moore given game time next season. I don't want them going out on loan. The striker's a different issue because with Lancashire's got 23 goals in 22 games for the under 21s. You've got Scarlett, who always scores when he's away from England, and you've got Villas as well. And what has been noticeable is that Villas has not been given any time by Ange. He doesn't fancy him, does he? Even Scarlett got on for the header against QPR, which the keeper did a worldie save and Phillips tapped it in at the far post. But I don't think he fancies Villiers, and like I want to see Villiers. I'd like to see Villiers. So I think Villiers will be the first one who goes out on loan, and then and because he's played Lancashire, I think he's going to keep Lancashire. I really do.
Yeah.
I won't be against it. Don't get me wrong.
Adrian, can I stop you there, because I'm going to come on to the transfers, because there's obviously been a lot of stuff. I'm going to come on to that. So can I stop you there?
Yeah, sure.
Do you? Yeah, because I'll bring you on. Let me bring Dave back in though. Bergvall, whack-a-mole. You're playing against Bayern Munich. It's probably the biggest team you've ever played against. You're 18 years of age, and you're hungry for the ball. And not only you're hungry for the ball, you know what to do with it.
Yeah, top talent, absolutely top talent. And he's going to have a positive impact on our season overall, I think. Whatever happens, however it pans out, I think if we assess his impact and how he pans out over the season, I think he's going to have an overall positive impact, because he does all the right things. There's Anne's made some comments about him physically, and I think there will be that kind of adjustment. If I'm being hypercritical, I look at him and I see he does take sometimes a bit too many touches, maybe, and he gets away with it in preseason. He won't get away with it away at Newcastle United. He won't get away with it, at Aston Villa. You look at some of these dominant and more physical midfields that we go up against. Newcastle with Joe Linton and those type of players, and Jim Arias and whatever. But he will have enough chance to prove his top talent over the course of the season. We've got Europa. We've got, the early rounds of Carabao if we get some good draws. And I think, especially with Europa, his game is definitely more suited to the European League in terms of there'll be a bit more space, a bit more time in the ball. Will probably be, especially before December, before, we go into, knockouts, if we get some favourable draws, will be the dominant team. The favourites will have dominating possession, which is where he thrives. You can see what he wants to do. He'll collect the ball off the centre back, and within, he's there also making the final pass for an assist, or the hockey assist, the pass before the pass at the other end of the pitch. He's all over the place. He's got the engine. He's definitely got the mentality for it. And he seems like an all-round good guy that the other players like playing with. He lifts the other players around him. And even though he's only 18, he's played a lot of, we call it senior football because he's played in a men's league before now, similar to how Sarr did, similar to obviously how Udoji did. They played at least a season with, alongside, in a men's league before they came to us. And that's going to stand him in some sort of good stead in terms of how to, manage his body, manage his minutes, those kind of things. So yeah, let's see how it pans out. He's my favourite of all the kind of new additions that we've kind of brought in and we've been scouting over the years. We call it in my group chat of Spurs, we call it sign and stash. That's our little new thing that we've been doing over the past few years. We sign these players, stash them away 6 months to a year. We did it with Sarr, we did it with Udoji. We've now done it with Bergvall. Sign them, stash them away, and bring them into the club later on. Obviously, we've done it with the new winger that we've got coming in January. Let's see how it pans out, but I think he's going to have a very positive impact on our season, and I'm looking forward to seeing him at the Lane.
Soren, Oliver Skipp's had a really good pre-season. Have you seen him?
Why'd you have to start with me?
I'm trying to keep you involved for a game that you didn't see. Otherwise, I'm going to ask you for if you've got a Balvenie Caribbean cask there, I'm up for it. But only after I finish broadcasting.
Yeah, there's a couple there. Hippie. Oh, I so want him to succeed at Tottenham, but I just don't think he will. He's one of our own, innit? And you just want him to succeed. But I think with the people we've brought in these two youngsters, the people that are coming up, I don't see a future for him at our club. he's going to get left behind seriously. I can understand them offering him a new contract, extended contract, because homegrown, things like that, but don't know. I just don't think he's not improving, is it? He's at his level, and I just don't know if it's good enough for where. Well, it isn't good enough for where we're wanting Tottenham to go. So he's going to get left behind, and I really hope he proves me wrong, but he's not good enough. And I hate to say it.
Ellie, I mean, Skippy been playing centre half up against bigger players. He's just, he's talking about the, he's just like the little kid at school wants to punch the big guy. I just think his bravery has really got me. It's like he's fighting for his Spurs career.
Yeah, he is, and like Soren says, I'm with Soren on this one, because even though he's fighting for his Spurs career, if we want to challenge at the top, like Postecoglou alluded to, I'm not going to say he did say it comprehensively, because he didn't, but if we want to challenge on all fronts, we have to have better than Skip. His heart's there, the endeavour's there, but the actual technical side of the game and the physical side, I think he's okay on. He's not too bad. He'll get stuck in. He'll put his foot in. We saw it at Liverpool when he put his foot in that time, and then he got booted in the head back by Jota. So he can handle the physical side. It's just the technical side of the game and his awareness and his vision, it's lacking. So I think it's time to move him on. We can't be too sentimental. I know a lot of fans do like him as well, because he's a true Tottenham boy, and you can't overlook that. But at the same time, you've got to realise that he's not going to cut the mustard if we want to progress and be the club that we once were and find those glory days back again. And I don't think we're going to be doing it with players of Skip's ilk. We need better. And like I said, we can't be too sentimental, because he can carve out a career with a Leicester City or a Crystal Palace or a Brentford. I think that's his calling, or even a Norwich, because he done very well when he went down to the Championship. Just like Skip, they look good, but when it comes up to the Premiership, they just don't cut the mustard.
I mean, I deliberately put Dan's comment there, just as Ellie was talking there, and almost it wasn't quite word for word, but there was the same sentiment. Is that fair comment? That we'll talk in general about afterwards. I'm going to come on to where we are with transfers, because you'll know it was sparked some real controversy in the chat groups this afternoon, but. Is that a fair comment? So with Ollie Skip, he's not a player that's going to be in your first 11 if you want to be winning cups and challenging to get into Champions League and then challenging for the league.
Right, sorry, I'm going to take it back a step, because I didn't get an opportunity to speak on the second half team.
I haven't finished yet.
Okay, so on the second half team.
You can.
Yeah, on the second half team.
I like Jose, he's getting in there.
What I wanted to say, right, is before pre-season, we knew nothing about Brandon Austin. Nobody knew nothing about Brandon Austin. Brandon Austin was a ghost. He was a name that appeared with Tottenham, but no one ever saw him. He was a ghost. He was just a name to us all. All right. Now, yesterday, watching the game yesterday, Vicario, how many mistakes did Vicario make in that first half yesterday? He made so many mistakes. Vicario was playing as if he's got a robotic mind. He was trying to play the ball out short to players that were putting themselves into positions to receive the ball with a Bayern Munich man on top of them. Now, if that happens, instead of releasing the ball to the player that's got a man on him, right, and I'm not talking a man standing 5 yards off, the man's up his jacks, right, then what he should have done, he should have then gone long with the ball, not all the way up front, but long into pockets. And he failed to do it. It's as if robotically he's being told, no, you must pass it to one of the nearest 5 that come to you. And he made mistakes. He was at fault for the first goal, and he made some mistakes yesterday where he parried balls out. So he's made the save and he's parried balls out, but not parried them out strong enough, and they've landed in front of players. Second half, we get Brandon Austin. Brandon Austin comes in, he makes saves and he keeps the ball beside him. He doesn't parry the ball out. All pre-season, Brandon Austin has looked like a complete beast. We do not need Forster anymore. We don't need Whiteman anymore. Get them out of the club. You've got your number 2. You've got your person to compete with Vicario, and that is Brandon Austin. We've not seen Brandon Austin, seen him pre-season, and I am super impressed with Brandon Austin. Now, did you want me to answer Dan's question?
Yeah, come. Yeah, it's your show too.
Okay, so it's not my. I'm on your show. I'm a guest on your show, right?
Yeah,
so for me, can you?
Right, it's our show too.
Okay, so Dan says, so have we improved the first 11 and what we bought can help us win the FA Cup of Champions League? Right. So I'm going to answer that and say that Brandon Austin, Bergvall, and Archie Gray do improve our first 11 in the sense that they provide competition for our first 11. And that's where the improvement comes. Last year, I felt that we had players that we didn't have competition for. I think players were just there for the ride, knowing that they'd get selected week in, week out. They didn't have to do much to get into the side. I think now, this season, Brandon Austin is going to give competition to Vicario to get into the starting 11. The 2 young boys are going to give midfielders competition to get in the starting 11. So improvement on the first 11 is now that we've got more people to provide competition. We haven't improved in the sense that we've bought signings to go oven ready into the first team, and that I'm hoping comes between now and 27 days or 26 days that are left in the window. But as for now, the 3 players that I've just mentioned will improve our first team in the proviso that they will provide competition for places. But we still need to buy more players, and that's my answer to that.
Yeah, just one before I bring Adrian in. Yeah, you see the ticker at the bottom. If you're in the chat, I know people are coming in and out all the time. Please hit the like button. Please subscribe to the channel. Help us grow. Please, thank you, Adrian. Jose makes a really interesting point, doesn't he? About, well, they've improved the first 11 because they're competition for the first 11, and you talk about genuinely an 18 players that can come off the bench without making it look weak.
Yeah, especially when some of our established older players like Basuma, Maddison, and Bentancur need to up their game, need to show us what they can do when they're at their best. I mean, I agree with Jose in a sense. I mean, we are, with those players, I think Gray and Bergvall will be stars, right? But they are not oven ready, but they don't take us backwards. With players like that, what we're doing, we're treading water with them because we don't know what is going to happen in this upcoming season, right? I'm confident they will do well, but they're not oven ready in the sense that, like, okay, you're confident that they're that good, they're going to make such an impression that we are definitely going to win something. So they don't give you that vibe, right? But we're treading water with them, and they do make part of an 18, in my opinion. But they're not oven ready. But I said the same about Brennan Johnson when we brought him in for 40-odd million quid, you know, which is questionable to bring players that aren't oven ready at that sort of price. Even Gray at 40 million. But when we talk about prices later, I've got something else I want to talk about. But, like, no, I think we're treading water with them, and I definitely think they're part of the 18.
Are we improving sufficiently? I mean, we're going to come on. But if we're not buying, because we'll come on to this, but if we're not buying our oven-ready players, are these kids good enough to step up and take Basuma's place, take Maddison's place, take Sarr's place?
Well, you look at it this way. Do you think it's all subjective with players, with fans, you know, but do you think they are better than what we've got rid of? I do. I think they're better than what we've got rid of. Definitely. And we've got rid of about 17 players, you know. So, yeah, in that sense, I mean, they might not be in the same positions as some, but would I play Gray at centre back instead of Joe Rodon? Well, I probably would, because he's got more to his game than Joe Rodon's got, you know. So and with Bergvall, you know, you play. Would you play him over Skip? Of course you play him over Skip, and Skip needs to find another club. So there's just a couple of examples there. Would you play Gray as a substitute right back? Yes, you would. Right. So, you know, if you're willing to play him there, then, you know, then obviously you're thinking he's better than Emerson, right? Is Gray a better player than Emerson? Every day of the week and twice on Sundays, right? He is. He's better at 18. He's better than Emerson. Emerson technically inept. He's a great physical player. He did quite well yesterday, what he had to do. But he's like a lumbering giant around the field. You know what I mean? Like, I'm surprised the ground don't shake when he runs, right? I mean, he's just not good enough. But then I've just given examples where I think Gray and Bergvall improve us with players going. If people disagree with me, that's fine. I haven't got an issue with that. But yeah, they're part of the 18. And I think we're treading water with them. That's the best thing to say. We're treading water with them. We're not going backwards, right? Whereas we would if we kept Emerson, you know, and even still, we would
I'll come on. I know Mark has his own opinions. Mark Cousins, one of our admin team, but I mean, he says so. I'll come on because I want to keep that team up there for the last question on this. But Mark in the chat has just said, so we built a £1 billion stadium to tread water. That's fair comment, isn't it, Soren?
That's fair enough.
I mean, we've signed these youngsters and we've got rid of the deadwood, and we've not even played a competitive game yet, and everyone's slating us off. Well, what are people expecting? I think Jose hit it on the head with a certain comment where, you know, Vicario had a poor game, but nobody's slating Vicario off. But the youngster Gray has his first poor game for us, and everyone's slating him. And you kind of look at it and think, let's play a competitive game and see how we do first. As for the £1 billion stadium, yeah, we've built a £1 billion stadium. We're 5 years into that stadium. 2 seasons at least were behind closed doors. So there was no income coming in. And the stadium's still got to be paid for. And I don't know. I mean, maybe I just live in a blinkered world where I think, you know, things take time. It can't be done overnight. I mean, if we had a team of 11 Messis or world-class players, some of our fans would still find something to complain about. So I just say let's see what the season brings. The transfer window's not over. You know, we've still got 2-3 weeks of the transfer window left. We don't know who we're going to sign. We could have 3 or 4 players still to come in. We might get one, but I don't know. I'm just fed up of saying the same things. Let's just wait and see what happens. If we get a couple of players in, brilliant. We've improved our first team. If we don't, we've got to go with what we've got, and we see where we end up. And do I think we could win a cup with the team we've got? Yeah, of course we can. Why not? Why can't we win a cup with the team we've got? You know, there's a lot of luck within winning a cup, and maybe this year's the year we have that luck. I don't know. Maybe it's not again. We won't know until the end of the season, will we?
Dave, of those players, the young ones there in particular, the Abbotts, the Devines, the Bergvalls, the Donnelly, Moore, Lancashire, and Gray, who started the first half. Which of those players do you think would be ready if pushed to play first team football?
Yeah, Gray, definitely. Listen, he had a bad game, but let's just they're gonna have. He was at 18 while playing against Kimmich, Müller, Gnabry, and such like. Come on, it is what it is. Yeah, he'll be ready. Having watched Mikey Moore for the past 18 months with some of the academy lot that I've worked with or whatnot, yeah, I think he can play it in the first team. Now, I wouldn't start him, but he's a kid that, with his talent level, I think I said this on a previous pod that I've been on. 1-1 away, Fulham, midweek. You know, a bit like the Carabao Cup game that we had last year, when we just needed something off the bench to bring us higher up the pitch, a bit of a spark. Don't know if anyone watched him in the under-17s in the summer, but he's ready to contribute. And that, you know, with him signing the contract and making it all official in the next couple of weeks when he turns 17, I think that's where his role is going to be this year. I would like to see him manage in the same way City did it with Foden, where they introduced him for a bit and then kind of, you know, keep him under wraps and then just really manage his minutes. Don't want to burn him out too much. And then the rest of them, obviously Bergvall ready to contribute. I think some of the others, Divine is a bit of a strange one because he's in that position where, like, you know, Bergvall's been signed. Does he play further forward? But then you've got Mikey Moore. You know, there's actually, he's not the only kind of like star wonder kid at the moment, because when he first came in, it was like, oh, this is, you know, where a lot of the hype and attention was kind of going on. Now he's like one of 5 to 10, you know, almost 10 different kids we've got, you know, even not just these guys that played yesterday, but you've got the likes of a Tyrese Hall in the academy. You've got other players that we haven't even mentioned that they won't be contributing this season, but over the next few seasons, we'll see maybe some of them start to come through. I really want Lancashire to contribute this season, but I do think he'll end up going out on loan. I just like, obviously we've seen it with Harry, didn't we? But, you know, having a striker come through, and I like the way he plays because it's very much, if you watch his movements, it's very similar to Harry. You know, they've all studied Harry Kane, you know, as you would do, you know, coming up in the academy.
Did you say Lancashire?
Yeah. Lancashire. He's got that. You know, even it was the Bristol Kobe game for the 4th goal. His movement there, in and out, very sharp, lovely. It's exactly what you want to see in the box.
This is your first time on this show, but I've said on a couple of occasions, I think the boy Lancashire's got something about him. It's not always easy to define it, but he's got something.
Yeah. And so, listen, I think what we may see, and you know, what we may see is we'll keep some of these kids now, but they'll go out in January. So I think you might see, like even like Alfie Devine, though, he stuck around. He might stick around, but then go out in January. If he doesn't get a run, because obviously we've got the Europa game, so they may keep him around for that. But then we look at it and go, look, here's the way the season's trending. You're not going to get as many minutes as you probably need with Spurs as we're heading into the business end of the season. We may need you to go and play for, you know, a team challenging at the top of the championship or another European team, maybe in the Dutch league or whatever, you know. So I think that's what we might see with some of these kids if they don't move on in the next couple of weeks. But it's a very exciting time to look at some of the younger ones.
Dave, we know that Moore can't go out on loan because he's too young anyway. He's not 18, right?
Yeah.
Do you think, like, because with Devine and Phillips, the reason they went to Plymouth, because with Young England, they were the coaches that were with Young England were at Plymouth.
Yeah.
Same now, Curtis has left Spurs and gone to Birmingham, and he wants to take Donnelly, Lancashire to Birmingham, I think. It's either Lancashire or Donnelly, I'm not sure. But one of them, I can't remember them now. Brain's gone a bit foggy. But do you think they're more likely to go players? Well, I mean, like, because we've struggled before with like Scarlett. I like Scarlett, but
Scarlett's been bad. I think Scarlett's been burned by bad loans. I think Scarlett, we've got it wrong with Scarlett in terms of his loans, and it's kind of halted progression. You know, he scores everywhere but at Spurs. You know, he'll get a few goals.
I don't know how they work these loan deals out, right? I'd like to see some incentive scheme. Now, I don't know whether they just pay the kids' wages or they pay just a loan fee or whatever it is, like. But I'd like to see some sort of scheme whereby if you play the player, we'll pay his wages while he's with you or something like that. You know, it's just some thoughts. It's no good them going out on loan if they don't get game time.
Yeah, it's weird because we know football is unpredictable, isn't it? You know, you never know how a season's gonna go out. Sometimes, you know, these kids end up at a place and then there's a manager change 2-3 months into it, There's a system change. There's, they get injured, etc. It's really tough to place them in an environment which is going to cause them to thrive. And Scarlett's been on a bad run. Unfortunately, I don't think it's necessarily going to work out for him at the club. I think the press and the hype that Lancashire is getting. They're saying Lancashire is the best striker in training, and that's including Son. They're saying he's really putting himself about, and the fact that Ange trusts him to give him the amount of minutes that he's getting, he's definitely having a look at him. I still, like I said, I think he'll probably end up going out on loan at some point in the season, which is the right thing. It's the right thing for him to do because he's still young. So I think at the moment we'll be looking at probably buying a striker, hopefully. Obviously we'll talk about it a little bit, buying a striker, but Lancashire, let's see what happens. But I think definitely in terms of who can contribute, Bergvall, Moore, obviously Gray, the rest of them will probably be knocking around and just going out alone at some point.
Dave, thanks. Guys in the chat, we're going to come on to, when we've done this, to the ins and outs, particularly as it seems to have gone a little bit quiet on the ins. And also some people speculating on some of the stuff I'm involved with that Anne should be gone or gone soon. So keep those comments coming. I will get back to them because we may be getting back to the poison Tottenham fans, which I don't like too much, but going to keep the controversy going at least. Jose, let's bring you back. You haven't had you for a little while.
Ellie's not been asked anything. She's been very quiet.
I'm waiting. Yeah. I'm like any woman.
I'm coming round. I'm going round.
Okay. It's okay, Jose. You go first. You're the Spanish man in the.
You go first. We always try and have our guest first.
I'm getting a drink. It's all right.
Apart from the tennis, because what's his name? Djokovic beat your man today.
And where did the English guys end up? Oh, sorry, they went out in the first round.
Well, I'm Greek, so the Greek got third in the Olympic.
Oh, God.
Yeah, Fleetwood. I always call him Mick Fleetwood. Tommy Fleetwood came second in the golf, got the silver. Anyway, come on, we're here to talk football. The people in the chat want to talk football. Of those players, which ones do you think you could see playing a bit of first team football this season? A fair bit of first team football.
For me, I'm going to say that Coach Dave has gone before me, so he said a lot of what I was going to say. We've heard a lot of hype about these youngsters. Some people have watched them more than what I have, clearly. I've watched them from afar in bits and pieces that you get to see. Watched them a lot more, obviously, in pre-season. I saw Mikey Moore playing the Euro Under-17s Championships and that. Along with, we had another player from Tottenham as well that played in that. Who's an under-18, he's in the under-18s team. Adajay or something like that. I can't remember his name now. But anyway, we had another player playing in the under-17s as well. But, right, so watching them all, yeah, for me, a lot of them, I said the other day that a lot of them will go out on loan. Whether they go now, whether they go mid-season, a lot of them will go out on loan. And what we need to do is we need to look after these players. And for the development, the team that we have in the back in the academy and stuff like that, they have to agree and they have to find pathways for these players. Like, is the player good enough that you want to send him to League 2? Are you going to send him to League 1? Is the player good enough to go to the Championship? Is the player good enough to go to another Premiership team? Are you going to send them on a foreign loan? You have to pick the right loans. I mean, what we've seen one of our players, he was playing League 2 last year, and now we've sent him back out on loan this season, but he's gone to League 1 because he had a really good League 2 loan last season. We've now sent him to League 1. With, as Coach Dave said already, with Plymouth, when we sent the two boys to Plymouth, they then had a change of manager. So the person that took them to Plymouth was the gaffer that they had for the England under 18s or 19s or whatever it was, and they both played under him. He took them both to Plymouth, Devine and Phillips. He then got sacked or left the club quite soon after joining, and it then meant that Phillips still got game time with the new manager, but all of a sudden Divine's game time dried up, and it took probably about 2 months for Divine, instead of being on the subs bench and not getting minutes and getting a few minutes here and there, to actually get back involved in the first team again. It took him a couple of months. With Scarlett went to Ipswich, obviously under McKenna, and Ipswich had other players that they played in front of him, and Scarlett ended up with no minutes, and came back to us in January. Then you've got Veliz has gone out on loan, for all intents and purposes, a good loan to Sevilla. But then you had the manager at war with the board, and you ended up with him not getting no game time. So it was a waste of a whole season or a waste of 6 months for Alejo Veliz as well. So we just need to understand and have a pathway for all these players. A lot of these players may be kept for the first part of the season, because we are going to be playing in 4 competitions, and these players would be on the B list. So where last season we ended up sending players out and everything like that, and we ended up with injuries, we ended up being really short in the team, and we ended up putting round pegs into square holes last season. So it may be worthwhile keeping some of these in the squad or in and around the first team, and to pad it out and put them on the B list to pad it out. But I think that some of these players are far too good from what I've seen, and I've seen more of them in pre-season now. But from what I've seen, I think some of these players are far too good to go back into academy football. They do need to make the next step up, because academy football for them is too easy. It just is too easy, and it's run its course. I think that we've got another crop of players that are not on this, that didn't play in the first half or the second half yesterday. We've got other players like Tyrese Hall and people like that, and I think people like that, they're good players that are up and coming, and I think they're just they're the next wave for next season. But the players that played or in and amongst the squad yesterday, got game time in the first and second half, I think some of them would do well by staying in the B squad. On the B list with us, so to get us through the cup competitions that we've got between now and Christmas, because we've got these Europa Cup games. We're going to have 8 games or 9 games, 8 games, and I think 6 of those take place before Christmas and 2 after Christmas, and then you've got the Carabao Cup to contend with if we get through the 3rd, 4th, or whatever rounds. So there'll be extra games there. So at the end of the day, I'd keep some of these players in the B list. Probably about 5 of the players I'd keep. I think it's a waste of time. They're not going to get any minutes whatsoever. It's a waste of time to keep any more than that. Send them out and get them decent loans now.
Well, just to add to that, Jose, before Ellie comes in, obviously, we have got a person in place for that now. Andy Scolding, and David probably knows it if he's been at the academy. Andy Scolding is now in charge of pathways and loans with regard to the academy. So that's his designated job. So he is the one we look to make sure, these players get to where we want them to go.
Yeah.
Ellie, do you want to come in? Because I do want to get to ins and outs as well. We've been a fair bit of time with us.
Just to reiterate what Jose said, because Jose's a very learned man, as we know. He's a winner as well, because his channel's doing brilliantly. And I just feel Spurs need to step up on all fronts, because we do need to strengthen our first team squad. We do. We can't rely on the youngsters all the time. They are fantastic youngsters. They're talented in their own right. They all add flavours to our squad, because I think a lot of them will be kept as squad players. Maybe 1 or 2 will be put on loan. With Dane Scarlett, I like to comment on him, because I think he hasn't been given any good loans, like Coach Dave said. It was wasted efforts for all the team involved with Spurs. They should have really managed that a lot better, because the boy is talented and he's shown for England at the under-20 level. I think he hasn't actually broken in to the under-21s yet, I believe. But I just feel I've got my hopes with Dane Scarlett, because I do like him as a man as well. He's a lovely lad, and he's Spurs through and through. And like I alluded last time, Steve Perriman said, when you've got a player who's come through the academy and he's got more than Skip can offer, this lad, I think I've got my hopes that he will be played and will be kept as a first team player and given his chance. Just like Harry Kane, right? He was given his chance. Nobody knew what Harry Kane was going to become, right? And I'm putting my badge, my Tottenham badge, on Dane Scarlett to make it at Spurs. I really do hope he does. And I just don't want to see him go to another club and succeed at another club. And then we're going to say, look, there's another one that got away and won trophies. Because we've let a lot of players. I saw, what's his name? Alex Box Office, right? He was talking about Juan Foyth, right? That we let Juan Foyth go. And he was a talented footballer. He really was. I liked him. I went to Wembley and I saw him playing Europa League. And he was a standout player in one of the matches. He was against the Greek team, but he showed what he's worth. And then he goes to Villarreal and wins cups, just like Melleraz, just like Kyle Gill did. You know, but the thing is, I just feel that we do waste some of our talent and we let it go, right? But I will reiterate, though, we have to strengthen the squad, the first team squad and the first 11, because we're nowhere near where we need to be.
No. Well, I'm going to say, Ellie, you've teed me up beautifully for this.
I try my best every time.
Can I just jump in really quickly there with the problem with what we're discussing at the moment is if we keep signing players that are established in first 11, that blocks the pathway for these youngsters. So we can't have it both ways where we say we need to promote these youngsters into the first team and then go and buy somebody, say 25, 26, 27, that have got another 3, 4, 5, 6 years in the first team, which then blocks these youngsters, which then makes them go to another team because there's no pathway for them.
Is that not a dilemma? You got to get the balance.
Exactly.
Sorry.
Yeah. This is it. You know, I mean, I agree with everybody that where we're saying we need to improve the first 11. Yes, I agree with that. You know, I'm not against that, but I also agree with we have some talented youngsters, and if we don't give them a chance to show us what they can do, then we will never show them the chance of what they can do.
Yeah. I might play I'll pretend to be Daniel Levy during this discussion. I hadn't planned it, but you've raised an interesting point. Just wanted to say good evening, Tom. Tom was due to be on the show, but was cried off with an ingrowing toenail. No, it's flu. So wish you better, Tom, and we'll get you back on a show before long. Yeah. Okay. Just sorry. I was just looking at something in the private chat. Right. We are looking at transfers out. I'm going to talk about the outs first of all, and then because funnily enough, I raised the names of Valith and Scarlett there. We're all right. Well, let's talk. And guys, keep your comments coming in, please. Emerson appears to be pretty well done, although typically I think he's been really excellent when he's come on at centre half. Lo Celso clearly doesn't have a future at the club, and hopefully he'll be gone soon. Reguilón doesn't appear to be a lot of interest, but he doesn't have a future either. But we're playing, the first choice backup centre forward is Valith. Is Lancashire, and Valith and Scarlett aren't getting a look in. So I'm about to hear what you're saying, Ellie, but it seems to me that particularly with the latter, that maybe neither Valith nor Scarlett has a future at the club. Adrian, let's bring you in there.
Yeah, I mean, with the strikers, it's time for me to have a bit of a rant about this actually, because so far, believe it or not, and for those in your chat, this would be music to Mark Cousins and Danny's ears. right? We've made a profit in this transfer window, and we ain't brought a player in, right? We got rid of Joe Rodon. Now, I did all this today for like 12 million. It may have been more because we got the Archie Gray deal, because Spurs were looking for 15 to 20 million because he had such a good season. We got rid of Højbjerg in millions. This is pounds, because like for 18, which was 15.25 million pounds. Parrott went for 8 million. Iago Santiago, we don't know. Right, he might have gone for $1 million or $2 million to Spanish second division club Elche. Emerson Royal's now up for like 12.75 million, 15 million euros in add-ons, right? That totals, without any money for Santiago, and if I've been very conservative on Joe Rodon, to 48 million, right? And we hadn't sold Regular and Lo Celso. We paid 40 million for Gray, 4 million for Yang Min Hook, right? 44. So far, we've made £4 million profit right, in the transfer window. This is Spursy, isn't it? We've made £4 million profit, and we haven't brought in, you know, another ready player yet. And I'm not happy about it. I bet all the chat's not happy. I bet none of us are happy about it, are we? Our impatience is wearing thin. If we've got any patience left, you know. So we do need to bring a striker, and I think the striker is the most important thing we need to bring in. Before, I'd love to get Eze, and I've said it. I mean, who wouldn't want Eze, you know? But the striker is the most important thing, and it may even be that Ange wants a right winger. Now there's talk from like, 3 players will get 2, and we need at least 4 in this window. We need 4 in. We need the striker, the wide player, and Eze, you know, and a left back, in my opinion. We need 4, and you know, the window only goes to the 1st of September, and it goes 2 weeks into the season. You don't want to be bringing players in. You know, you want to give them, you know, if they're oven ready, well, it helps. But I mean, like, you want to like to think we'd get a lot of work done next week, right? Because like, then you're only a week away from the season starting, and we play Bayern on the 10th, and then the 17th the season starts. Although we don't play till Monday the 19th, Leicester away. But you know, I mean. And like the Premier League need a kick in the nuts for this as well. I mean, like I mentioned it a few times before, you know, I don't fail to understand why the transfer window doesn't open when the league season finishes. Instead of this season, it opened the same time as the Euro started. That was great thinking, wasn't it? You know, brilliant. You know, but they're like Spurs. They keep making blunders. You know, they spent 30 million on court cases with PSR and all that. So like, no surprise. We need a striker in urgently. We need a striker. And I'm bereft at what to do in the striking situation. I can think of players I want him, like I'd want Eze and obviously, you know. And when it comes to other forward players, if we're talking a Chiesa or a Neto, I like those players, don't get me wrong. But Chiesa's had 2 cruciate injuries in Italy. And that's in a league which is slower than the Premier League. So you have to take that into consideration. He's going to come into a harder league, quality player in the league I've seen him in. Neto's had a few injuries here. I tell you what they need to do with some of these players. They need to introduce, you know, like when you buy a second-hand car, you get a warranty with it. You need a warranty with some of these players, right? That's what you do. You need a warranty, like in the add-ons, right? You need a warranty so as we don't end up with an Ndombele situation. Because it's one thing to say we're not in for these players, but when you hear about the baggage with Tony, you're about the injury issues with Chiesa, the injury issues with Neto, played 19 games last season, and I'm hoping now that our completely revamped footballing side of the squad, the admin side.
Adrian, the thing about Chiesa was interesting. It was in the Athletic that I read in the week that his agent was over in London, and there was talk that he'd gone to talk to Chelsea, and the fee was 25 million euros, which is, it's a lot of money, but in football terms, it's absolute buttons. And there was no interest in him at 25 million, having a year left on his contract. And now Juve are talking about letting him go for somewhere between 15 and 17.5 million, which would suggest that you're absolutely spot on, that there's simply no market for him because of his injury. However good a player he might be, you know, another one on the treatment table is no use to anybody.
So it's all right for us to look. I'll rant about the profit we've made, and we should have a list other than these players. Doesn't matter who Spurs bring in. As Soren always say, half the fan base are going to have a meltdown at whoever we bring in. Like, you know, he ain't good enough or whatever, and that's without seeing them play half the time. But we should be further forward in this transfer window than we are. You can still do deals when you're away, like on tour. You know, you can do them by video phone. You recruit. Langer was out there, right? Well, if he was badly needed here, then it's not necessary for him to go out there unless he's going out there broker deals, unless he was brokering the Yang Min Hyuk deal, you know. But I'm not happy with this transfer window. It's been underwhelming. I'm liking the signings we've brought in, but they're not oven ready. We're treading water with Bergvall and Gray, but I'm not happy with the window. I mean, like, and we'll see. Something needs to happen quickly in this window. And like, we've had rumours about Solanke being brought in. I've got to be honest with Solanke. 19 goals he got last season. He wasn't far behind the others. I mean, Haaland got the most, 27, and the others are like 21 in front of, I think, Ollie Watkins or whatever, and things like that. I don't know about him. I know Liverpool got a part 20%, but if they've got to sell on Flair, that's irrelevant. You're either going to pay the fee or not pay the fee. It doesn't matter where the money goes, right? Once you've paid it, you're not interested in that. So, yeah. So Solanke, I don't know. I mean, like, with the strikers, there's a dearth of good strikers out there. I wanted Dusan Vlahovic because I think he'd be perfect for the Ainge system, right? He was my main take. Others would like Gyökeres from Sporting, but he didn't pull up no trees at Coventry, and now he's had a real good season at Sporting, right? So Jimenez has dropped off the pace for Feyenoord. He only scored the same amount of goals as Troy Parrott. Tony, you don't know what's gone on behind the scenes there because no one's sniffing around him, and you'd think they would be by now, right? What are we not being told about that? You know, and then so like you're not going to get Matey from Newcastle because they'd want 100-odd million for him, so that's not going to happen, right? So it's a bit like, you know, all the good chocolates have been nabbed from the chocolate box, and there's like, what's left? Like, there's like, you know, I mean, like, you know, all you're left with is crunchy frog. You know? Like, so.
Dave, let me bring you in here because you've got your ear to the ground and you maybe know a little bit that you can tell us. I mean, I'll declare a couple of hands here. People from the chats that know me, I'm certainly not one of the big Levy-outers compared to some, and this channel doesn't have an agenda on that, so we just won't get into that. But one thing I will say is that the board does test your patience because, you know, on the one hand, I think we all feel that we're not that far away, maybe 2-3 players from being really, really challenging, and yet we've brought some great kids in, but Bergvall and Gray are probably not going to win you the league this year. They might not even get you into the top 4. So what do you think's going on, and what do you think might happen in the last couple of weeks of the window?
Yeah. Oh, they do test your patience, don't they? Good Lord. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? It seems like Andy is putting us in this situation where he's now going, right, we need a striker. He's kind of been very. He usually talks in quite general terms, doesn't he? But he's actually come out and said striker is the thinnest position in the squad. Now, obviously, there's a few names kind of knocking about, whatever. With the likes of Solanke, I'm not necessarily utterly convinced. I think he will do well in our system. I think he will score the same amount of goals, and he'll get those chances. He'll be able to. I think he'll be more reliable than a Richarlison, definitely. Well, if I had to get someone from the Premier League, it would be Ivan Toney. Now, you mentioned, and I didn't know if anyone was going to say, so, you know, what's gone on. Now, it's interesting because he wants to stick around in London. Ivan Toney. He wants to stick around in London. The only other option was Man United. Man United wanted a younger option. Ivan Toney is like 28, 29. So, you know, for a lot of the clubs at the top end of the league, especially even like us, they're going for younger strikers who there's either a little bit of resale value or you're going to get 5-6 years out of them in terms of, you know, you're going to build a team around getting them in. Ivan Toney is not that player, you know, because he's at that stage. When he first this time last year, it was definitely that the price that they wanted for him was, you know, in that 60 to 70 million region. That has come down significantly, and they've already gone and signed his replacement. They signed a replacement. They shot a promo video for their new kit. They put out their new kit. He's not in the video. Everyone gets excited. They then play a game, and the replacement gets a meniscus injury. All right. So now, you know, the kind of talk around, you know, the group chats was, you know, Tony's off the table. I'm not sure how much truth there is, but I do think there is some chat that Brentford are looking at getting another striker in on loan in the past couple of days. So I think they are preparing for if Tony was to leave, or even just to have the option that they don't have to rely on him, because a team like Brentford, they need to generate some funds and they don't want him going for free, you know. So the thing is, for me, the reason why I would buy a Tony, and this is going back to the what was said earlier about blocking pathways and whatnot. The thing is with Tony, you probably only got about 2 years out of him, really, in terms of, you know, you're thinking like he's 29 now, till 31. You go for 2 years. By that time, will Lancashire be ready? I reckon, yeah, maybe he will be ready to step in and be our main striker, or at least to compete at that kind of level. But in those 2 years, can this player score enough goals to help us, you know, maybe compete at the top end, or, you know, maybe win the odd trophy, whether it be Europa or an FA Cup or whatever the case may be? I think that's where he's positioning us. The other names are a bit more, you know, they're a bit more fancy, aren't they? You know, Gyökeres and Openda and all these other players. You're always taking a risk, jumping from different leagues. And I think for me, I like the kind of Prem proven option just from where we're at. We've been burnt by getting a player that scores loads of goals in another league. You know, Victor Janssen jumps to mind. You know, so I think for me, I think that's where I'd want to go down that route of Ivan Toney if it's possible, and I think we will see some sort of movement. But it looks like, from what we're hearing from the club, or not club, but from sources in and around the club, the rumour mill is kind of picking up on Solanke. Obviously, he missed today's game, didn't he? They said he had
this afternoon's game,
a toe injury,
allegedly.
We'll see about that.
Allegedly.
Yeah.
Let me come in on Dave. I'm always interested in what you have to say, which is why I've asked you on this show. But in terms of Ivan Toney, my thinking is that this was a deal that was likely to happen. I mean, I do think he's absolutely made for the role that Ange wants. One, in terms of his finishing, he's a great penalty taker, but also his ability to hold up the ball, which we really don't have, and we certainly won't have it under Kulusevski, and nor is Richarlison that good at it. But his replacement, I can't remember his name, but the guy they got as a replacement has suffered a serious pre-season injury and is going to be out for months. Now, if you're Brentford, you probably can't go out and buy another 30 million quid, or spend another 30 million on another centre forward. So if you sell us, say, well, to hell, we're going to sell you Ivan Toney anyway, and then you get relegated, you get your 60 million or your 50 million or your 40 million, because that price was dropping. You get your 40 million for Toney, and it costs you 160 million in Premier League revenues. If you're Brentford, selling Toney, even if you end up losing him for free in 2 or 3 years' time, is absolutely brainless. It's utterly brainless because you're much more likely to get relegated if you haven't got Tony. I know they did okay without him last year, but to me, and I think this is the problem. And it's maybe a little bit the same.
Easy solution, Ian. We lend them the Les and we take Tony.
Yeah. Dave, any quick comment on that? Because I do want to bring the rest of the guests.
No, it's you know, this is why these guys get paid, or as well, they take as much money as they do from the clubs that that pay them these wages, don't they, to figure these things out. You're totally right, but like I said, that's why these rumors are now coming out that they're looking at bringing in a player on loan to cover that eventuality if they have to get it. Because I think I'll double check this, but I don't think Ivan Toney's got that much longer on his.
Only a year, Dave. So he's not.
Another year.
Yeah, it's not 2 3 years. This is last year, so he's going for free next summer.
Sell him.
But letting him go for free would be better than selling him and getting relegated. I mean, I'm not saying that's not necessarily cause and effect. I'll bring Jose in. There's Dan's comment. I've got to say, I agree with this. I am not a Solanke fan. 29 goals in 139 games or something like that. A great season last season. But they called Harry Kane a one-season wonder when he was 21 or 22. This boy's, 26, 27. He's had 5-6 years to be a great player, and he ain't. What do you think?
Right. Firstly, can I start off because I'm streaming this on mine as well. David Shearer's put in a super chat, which is appearing on your thing as well, right? But he's put in a super chat. So David, thank you very much. He said, "Good day, Cobbers," to all of us. So I just wanted to say that. And he's also gifted out 5 memberships there as well. Yeah, he's gifted out 5 memberships. And they've gone to Nick Collison, Gamecock, Kells, Roundtable Talk, and Just a Girl Who Loves Spurs. So if you need to know, it was David Shear that gifted you the memberships.
He did it anonymously, you know that.
Thank you very much, David. You're a great supporter of the channels around there.
Well done, David.
Right, going on to these transfers. Right, I'm going to take it back a step. Tottenham have obviously got a plan on who they want to go for, and they've said that all along. They've got a plan. Now, whether plan A comes off or not, I don't know. But then you've got plan B to go to, plan C or whatever. They would have scattered loads and loads of players, and they wouldn't have had a list of one. Your one is your top target, but if that fails, you must have other people in that area that you're looking to buy. Some, and we know this with Tottenham and with other clubs as well, but Tottenham are really good at this. Sometimes you get an opportunistic signing that's too good to be true, and you go for it. I believe Chiesa is the opportunistic signing at the moment, right? Chiesa has had a bad injury 2 years ago, but he played 31 league games last year, scored 9 goals and 2 assists. Now, I'm not here to educate and tell people how to suck eggs here, but when you go to purchase a player must pass the medical. If the player doesn't pass the medical, you don't purchase the player. So if Juventus are prepared to let him go for the price that the ITKs are saying, then he would be a perfect signing for us, opportunistic signing, because in normal reality, you're not going to get this player for any less than 60, 70 million pounds, right? But that's where we are at the moment. Now, just to say that as well, Juventus, Thiago Motta has come out and said, right, that the players that didn't get selected for the squad for the pre-season friendly, right, are not in their plans for the season. Go and find yourself other clubs. So they've weakened their hand, Juventus, by saying this. And he's come out and he said this publicly, Thiago Motta. And the players they're looking to push out of the club, right, are Wojciech Szczesny, Weston McKennie, Di Sciglio, Arthur Mello, Filip Kostic, Nicolucci Caviglia, and Daniele Ruggiani. Now, I'll tell you something. That Filip Kostic ain't a bad player out on the wing. He's probably better than what we've got at the moment. But, I'm just saying, Thiago Motta's come out and said this. Juventus have weakened their hand by saying that these players can all go. They've not been picked. They've not been selected. They've got to find themselves clubs. So Chiesa, for me, is opportunistic. For the money that they're looking for him, I would say he's worth a punt if he passes his medical. Now, the other thing is with the fan base, and I get that the fan base are going potty and going mad because we haven't signed so-called first-team players, or however you want to term your view of what you want to call these players. We haven't signed anyone else or whatever. The thing is that in the past, Tottenham's news was everywhere, spread everywhere, right? And now since this new team of Langer, McDermott, and all the others have come in, people haven't got any stories from Tottenham. They're not getting anything from Tottenham. So all these ITKs that I keep saying, my analogy is they've all got AK-47s. They're all spraying the bullets, hoping that a bullet lands and hits someone. And they're, oh, I got the scoop first. I said it. I said it 3.5 months ago. You said 3.5 months ago, along with the other 134 players you linked to Tottenham as well. But one bullet has landed. Anyway, we're all pissed off because we want players to come in, and we really don't know what the transfer plan is. Now, with Ivan Toney, right, let's not get this mixed up. Ivan Toney is in these last 10 months of his contract now. Brentford are not going to let him go for a free next season. Yes, Thiago, the player that they bought in to replace Toney, has got injured, but Brentford have already got Sade, who's a number 9. They've already got him at the club. They bought him the season before last, or 2 seasons ago. So he's already at the club. So all they did is they bought Thiago in because they like to have 2 number 9s. So when Tony's out, when Toney wasn't playing and he was out, Sade was getting the starts, right? So Sade's already at the club. All Brentford need to do is identify another number 9 if they want to do that. Otherwise, they've already got Sade there. So I believe Toney will go. Now, whether he goes to Tottenham or not is another matter because I don't know who Tottenham are after. Do I think that we're after Solanke? At the moment, everything that's coming out from the ITK for me is smoke and mirrors because we didn't know that we were getting Archie Gray. 24 hours later, he signed on the dotted line. And I repeat this, you're going to get, it's awful because I'm repeating all the time. But with Højbjerg, and I spelled that correct, I said that, pronounced that correctly, Højbjerg, with him, everyone said he was going to Napoli, he was going to Atletico Madrid, Galatasaray, or Fulham. We get told he's going to Marseille. 24 hours later, he's gone. It's a done deal. So there's no leaks coming out of the club. So yes, I want to see players come in. I want to see a number 9, and I want to see a winger. Or I'd like to see 2 players that can play across the front line. I'd like to see another midfielder come in, and I'd like to see a defender, left-sided, whether it's a left-side centre-back or that can play left-back as well. I want to see another defender. I think Spencer's done enough. With Emerson going, Spencer's done enough to provide competition for Porro. I think the competition for Romero comes with Dragusin, but I don't think there's any competition for Van der Ven. Now, Van der Ven's a G in my eyes as well. You're not going to find anyone who can replicate what Van der Ven does throughout the whole of the world, but it'd be good to get someone to cover that left-hand side. But who these players are, I don't know. The in the nose at the moment, because they can't fire any more bullets and their guns have run out of bullets now, they're just saying, I expect Tottenham to be busy this week. That's all they're saying now.
Jose, how much, I mean, you're clued up. We've already made a profit in this transfer window, but I mean, like, how much do you think we've got to spend? We haven't spent a penny yet. How much do you think we've got to spend in, or we're willing to spend in this window?
And that's the golden question, is how much are we willing to spend? That's the golden question. That's another thing, as fans, we don't know how much we've actually got. We can all speculate, but we don't know how much we've got.
And I can tell you as a businessman, you're the last person that's going to find out.
Yeah.
Because if you find out, the opposing clubs find out.
Yeah.
Right.
And, you know, I mean, there's a lot of it is with Levy. A lot of it is smoke and mirrors. And then we bought Kulusevski and Bentancur. God, we haven't talked about Bentancur. Bentancur and Kulusevski. But that was on a loan. And then one was a loan for 18 months. And then one was a deal that was signing that summer. and then with the Porro deal, we signed him at Christmas, but Sporting wanted the money the following summer, presumably because they wanted it in their accounts the following year, not this year. So you end up, and remember the board said they were going to put, there was 150 million that they were using equity, giving up equity to pay for, to diluted their equity to pay for that 150 across the clubs and across. So it wasn't just for the Spurs first team. The whole thing, I mean, and it's good and it's bad. It's bad because you've got no idea really what we've got to spend, and Levy could be hoarding the money. Or let me just finish. Or we're absolutely bloody loaded. We can spend money, but we're telling other clubs we don't have the money. We don't have the money because at the end of the day, we want to get the fees down as much as other clubs want to screw money out of it.
We do have the money, and we didn't spend 50. We didn't draw 50 million of that 150.
And that was 2 years. And that was 2 years ago. And 50 million still outstanding.
If you go by not my figures, when I said we've spent 685 million on 29 players over the season since the stadium opened over 5 years, right? Then that would work out that we've spent on average 137 million a year. But if you dismiss that for 1 second, I mean, just in case those figures that I've got are wrong, right? Now, there's been a general consensus in the media that Spurs have spent roughly 600 million since the stadium opened, but that's still 120 million a year. So if you average that out to now, and we had our best revenue last year, right? Then to me, we've got 120 million to spend. 120 million to spend, and we haven't touched it. And
to me,
we might have already made 4 or 10 million on the transfers. I said I was very conservative with that 4 million profit, but we haven't lost no money out of that.
To me, there's a problem then, Adrian, right?
Go on.
To me, there's a problem. And the reason why I'm saying there's a problem is that if we then look at the amount of revenue that we bring in, yes, I know we're still paying for the stadium and stuff like that, bits and pieces like that, but the money that we get for match day revenue and the money that we get from everything else we do, and we got really favourable terms on the stadium. So this is where I do agree with some of the argument, right? When I look at other teams out there at the moment, right, they're dropping money on players at the moment, and I'm thinking to myself, well, they don't get as much revenue as us. They haven't sold players and got rid of players. Their squad's bigger than us. How are they affording to bring players in? Yet we are struggling. We are struggling to, or we haven't spent any money yet. I mean, you know, to me, at the end of the day, there is something wrong there with the finances. There is, because we must have money.
The thing that's wrong is Levy. He's always, honestly, I don't like the guy. I've never liked him. I think he holds us back. He just makes us relevant, and he doesn't push our club forward. I just don't think he's in it to win it. When he's never.
Ellie, I'm sorry. I'm going to cut it short because I do not want this. We've been going for 2 hours and we've got a couple of things I want to get through before we close. I just don't want this degenerating into a Levy yay, Levy no. I think I want to talk at the moment about the kind of realistic targets we should have, and are we going to get them? Sorry, I know it's a contentious. It always will be.
I don't think
3 minutes ago. 3 minutes ago, from Tuto Mercato Web, AC Milan are confident that Tottenham will give permission to defender Emerson Royal to leave Spurs in order to undertake his medical over the next 48 hours after months of negotiations between the two clubs. So that's just come in 3 minutes ago.
Good luck to him tomorrow. That's what I say. Good luck to him.
Dan's just brought a point in that I did want to raise, and Ellie, I'm going to come on to you now. Just another 30 is that another 30 non-football events. So that's NFL, it's gigs, it's boxing. I mean, that's should be mega income for the club.
Yeah, I know. Well, we're not spending it on the right things, are we? Look, we brought 3 18-year-olds in, no first teamers to challenge the first 11, really, because the youngsters they didn't even get on the starting 11 apart from Gray, right? And I don't know. I'm just a bit worried because I'm thinking we need more done at the club so that we can actually compete, so we can actually win things. We've only won one cup in 24 years. That's atrocious for Tottenham Hotspur. You know, go back
Well,
to our roots. Go back to
well,
our
we're all-
roots. We've gone back to our roots in terms of the style of play, because I do like the way Postecoglou does play. I really do, even though a lot of people coming out and saying that they don't like his style. I actually like it because it's on the front foot, and that's the way Spurs play, on the front foot.
Yeah.
So I just want to see more done in getting established players like Chiesa. Chiesa would be a mega signing for us. He's a talented footballer.
Yeah, he is.
What about Solanke? Where do you stand on Solanke?
I don't know. I just looked at his record. It said, somebody said 29 goals, but I've just looked and it says 72 goals. So unless that's wrong, 72 goals, I think it was in 139 games, something like that.
How many goals, Ellie?
You know, I just looked at his record. I think somebody said 29 goals only, right? But I've got here, hold on, because I'm on Chiesa. Let me go back to Solanke. Just bear with me. There we go. It's 199 games for Bournemouth, 72 goals. But when he was put on loan to Vitesse, because he started his career at Chelsea, would you believe? But Vitesse, he scored 7 in 25. And for Liverpool, he only scored 1 in 21. So when he took the step up to Liverpool, he didn't quite cut the grade. And they soon sent him packing back to Bournemouth. But 72 goals in 199, it's okay. It's quite good. But I don't even like the player myself. I just think he's not going to take us to the next level.
No.
I prefer. You were talking about Brentford and Mbumo and Vissa. I love those two players. I prefer to get them over Ivan Toney, because one's on the wing and one's like Vissa. He reminds me of Garth Crooks. You see that goal he scored against Arsenal when he nicked in and scored a brilliant goal. I like him. I think he's talented. So we do need the number 9 though, but I don't think Toney will come. I just don't think he's going to come.
He doesn't press, Ellie. He doesn't press.
No, he doesn't press. He's not an Ange Postecoglou type of player. I think it's better to get someone like Vlahovic, like me and Adrian love Vlahovic, because he can finish the boy. I know he didn't have a particularly good season last season, but Juventus were up in arms. They were all over the shop, and that's got Paratici written all over it. Chiesa and I've forgotten his name now. Vlahovic, yeah.
Both Juventus.
They're both Juventus, and you know Paratici, he likes to swim in pools that he's very familiar with, right? He does. So if those two players, they instantly improve our first 11. They do. Like Dan says, they're better than what we've got. Much, much better.
He likes to swim in pools of money, Paratici, by the way.
Yeah, he does.
I'll be honest, I don't know a lot about Solanke. Does he press? Coach Dave, does he press?
What was that, Adrian? Sorry, I missed that.
Does Solanke press? I don't know much about him. I really haven't looked at him that much.
I think the thing is we've got to always be not always like careful, but it's interesting when you note certain players also stylistically, they're not just they do press, they don't press, but also what they're being asked to do by their managers. If their managers not setting them up in that way, then they're not going to do it, or they are going to do it. So, but no, Solanke has done it on occasion. They have played on the front foot on occasion. Bournemouth kind of over the years have adjusted their kind of playing style. But yeah, I don't know. It's a weird one because also we don't know if Ange's going to go with this. If we're going to go with 4-3-3 or this kind of more of a 4-3-1-2 or kind of I don't know, again false 9 or a 10 kind of behind two strikers. Because again, that's where that Toney signing looks more attractive, because we saw Toney last year in the front too. ironically against us, when he played with Mopai up top, and actually, really did damage against us. You saw him again, even in the Euros, he came on, played in the front too. Now, what does Son do best? Son plays at his best when he's got a striker who can get the ball down and play him in. Tony's brilliant at that. So if we are building a forward line and you've got someone who can play that 10, like a Kulusevski, who's thriving in those middle roles, in the middle area of that pitch, and he plays that kind of false line or whatever, you've got Tony and Son as two forwards ahead of him. It would work quite well, because then Son can go back to doing what he does best in the latter stage of his career. He doesn't have to maybe do as much work trying to beat players or playing for the middle, which is not his suit. So he's not great at holding up the ball as other players would be. He's not great back to goal. He's not great dropping in to receive the ball. We saw that under Conte. We saw that in other iterations. So it'll be interesting to kind of see if we, depending on which striker we go for, I think we'll have an idea of what formation and tactical kind of approach Andy's gonna take moving forward.
Be another show that I'll do about whether the 4-3-3 is the ideal way, given the way we like to attack. But that is for another day, Dave. I've got some views on that. Soren, let me bring you in. Where do you stand on transfers, and particularly with Chiesa and Solanke, who seem to be the names mentioned?
Right. I've said it so many times now. If we're going to sit here and discuss what the media and in the knows are telling us and think it's all true, then we might as well give up. There are so many people in the chat, on Twitter, on social media, they're all Football Manager fans. They sit there probably with the keyboards telling us who's good and who's not. We haven't got an absolute dicky bird of a clue who Tottenham are going to sign. And it most probably won't be any of the players we've been talking about, or it might be 3 or 4 of them. We don't know. Look, the one thing I will say is, to me, like a couple of people have already said, Chiesa to me is it's a no-brainer. But I'm not the manager. I'm not the person at Tottenham telling us whether we should or shouldn't be signing him. He would be perfect on our right wing. I don't understand anybody who doesn't think that he wouldn't succeed at Tottenham. And if we get 20 or 30 games out of him, then we've done well. We can look at players that have got no injury problems, and they come to Tottenham and all of a sudden they get injured. So, it's a risk on whoever you take. But all these, we're linked to just about everybody. And like we've already said, Coyne won't even sign any of them. If I was to choose, I don't want Tony at the club. But that's not to say he's not a great player. I just don't see him. For me, he doesn't fit the system that Ange wants. Ange wants a player that is going to be closing down all the time. Is going to put the ball in the net. Now, like I think is it Dave said, we don't know what his manager's telling him to do. So maybe he will close down. I don't know, but to me, I just don't know. There's something about Tony that if he's as good as what everybody keeps telling us, all these football managers, then why ain't nobody else going for him? This is the argument that I've got. Well, if he is so good, why isn't every other team that is desperate for a striker going for him? Nobody's going for him. But the other thing is as well, we're all getting concerned about Tottenham. Nobody's signing anybody at the moment, really. There's been 1 or 2 players that have moved and been signed. There's been no big movement yet. There'll just be a great big snowballing effect soon. And whether it's this week or next week, I don't know. But to me, I think we'll probably end up with somebody that we weren't expecting. Whether, as a lot of people will tell us, it's going to be a cheap option, I don't know. Whether it'll be a big name, I don't know. But I'm just fed up of reading all these, we're going to sign this player. how many people are telling us we should be signing Isaac? Isaac's not coming to Tottenham. You know, it's like the Hakimi last year or the year before. Why aren't we signing Hakimi for the right wing? We're not getting these players. You know, let's come back down to earth. Let's remember, you know, the earth's round. It's not flat anymore. I don't know. Do we need to sign somebody? Certainly. Are we getting frustrated? Certainly. Are we going to sign somebody? We will sign somebody. Who? I don't know if anybody knows. You know, it's so frustrating because we look and we think, oh, Solanke, and we all get, you know, is he good enough? No, he's not good enough. And then you get other fans saying, yeah, he's good enough. Well, you know, if we can't decide, then I don't know. I just give up trying to work out who we're going to get, because we'll get somebody and it probably won't be who we're all talking about. It'll probably be somebody from some other league that we've never heard of, and we'll all suddenly go and look at YouTube for his highlights, and half the fan base are going to tell us he's shit and half the fan base will tell us he's the next Maradona. So I don't know.
Yeah. Soren, do you think that Ange might be offered players that fans think are great, and he'll turn his nose up and say, no, he doesn't fit my system?
Really? Yeah, I mean, we're sitting here and I mean, people are telling us Ange's going to be gone by Christmas. Other people are saying we need to stick by him. Some people are saying he's clueless. Some people say he's going to succeed. And then we get, you know, we're all saying, well, it's about time we back our manager. And then we suddenly look like we might be backing our manager. And now it's the worst thing ever because we haven't signed just anybody, basically. You know, hopefully gone are the days where we do just sign anybody. And if Ange has put, you know, if there's a list of players that Ange wants, and he's kind of already come out and said, if we don't get those, he's not desperate, or if we don't get those, we're not just going to sign anybody. But then half the fan base are telling us, well, we just need to sign somebody. Well, you know, what do we do? To me, if Ange wants certain players, if they are available and they do want to come to Tottenham and they are within our budget, then hopefully we'll get them. If they're not in our budget and they don't want to come to Tottenham and Ange doesn't want them, then no, what's the point? Because we're back at the Conte thing where we had Jed Spence, and Conte didn't want him for the fact of it wasn't his signing, so he never got a chance to play. Well, what's the point in doing that then? What's the point in us going out and say, getting a Solanke, and Ange turns around and says, well, I don't want him. He's not my player. So, you know,
okay.
I
think it's time. Yeah. We're past 10:15. We're past well past 2 hours as well. And I'm definitely looking for that whiskey. I think it's a Glenfarclas I've got downstairs. So I will have that when as soon as we've finished. Just want to say, please, guys, subscribe to Spurs Diehards TTID and El Cockerel. Thank you to everybody in the chat. But when the flat earthers come online, I think it's time for us to go to bed. But one thing we have, Dave, I think you're the only one that probably hasn't done this. We do have a little thing for our guests, and I have to get the phone out to remember this.
Okay. Well, okay.
Some random questions. I think everybody else would have done this. And if you're in the chat, guys, just hold on for a minute while we do this. First question: how did you become a Spurs fan?
Awesome. So I live in South London, not actually far from Crystal Palace, but my dad, born and raised in Tottenham, and I would say we had no choice, but he was all right with it. But no, we just all of us are Spurs fans. We live and breathe it. Our rooms were painted blue and white, you know, before we even came into the world. So it's all we saw from the womb.
Okay, and your favourite ever Spurs player?
Oh gosh, favorite ever. Gareth Bale. I think I've got to put Bayern in there. But to be honest, I mean, listen, there's a list. I'll give you a little bit of a list. My earliest memory and one of my favourites that really got me convinced that I was going to stick with Spurs was David Ginola. I remember the just so many different goals he scored and the runs and whatnot, the excitement, get you off your seat. Klinsmann, massive fan of Klinsmann. And then probably, going into those kind of 2000s, maybe dry spot, obviously. But obviously we won, 2008 and that. And obviously the emergence of Harry Kane. But yeah, definitely Gareth Bale. That was the next one that really got me excited. And we thought we may be able to do something here. But yeah, I think probably favourite, probably Gareth Bale. I'll go with that one.
Okay. And a particular Spurs victory, one that you really remember?
Oh, when we beat Chelsea Easter Sunday, was it? I can't remember what the score was now. 3-1 or 2-1. Eriksen scored. We went 1-0 down because Morata scored. It was a few years back now. And then Eriksen scored an absolute beauty of a goal to bring us back into the game. And then we won 2-1.
The next question was going to be a special Spurs goal.
A special Spurs goal, Harry Kane, North London derby. When he cuts in from the side, whips it top corner. We all remember that one. I remember where I was. I was on the road. I'm a musician by trade. I was on the road in a hotel in Birmingham, about to do a gig, watching that game, and he scored, and I went absolute bananas in front of all the Arsenal fans. And I probably got myself into a bit too much trouble, but here we are.
You got to be bananas to be a Spurs fan, Dave.
Yeah.
Guys, I'm just going to say seriously, thank you to all of my guests. Soren, thanks for coming on, deputising. Jose, as ever, you're a star on this show. Queen Ellie, sorry I quieted you down on Daniel Levy, but I thought we're already going over the 2-hour mark. Adrian, as ever, the founder of this channel, and particularly Dave, I think you've made a big impression with our listeners and our viewers, and I will definitely have
need
you
your
back
details,
on.
Dave, for the WhatsApp group. I don't have to compete in the WhatsApp group, but we know how to hunt you down.
I'll see those of you who can hang on in the back room. For those of you that are still here again, thank you so much for tuning in. I can officially confirm now, exclusively, the world is round. Daniel Levy is the second coming, and Spurs will win the quadruple this season. I can promise you all of that, but don't hold me to account. Thanks, guys. See you. Next show is Tuesday, 8 o'clock, Adrian?
Yeah, Tuesday, 8 o'clock.
Tuesday, 8 o'clock. Jose, when are you back on?
I'm going to be away for the week, so I might be on tomorrow and Tuesday, but that'll just be doing small shows to try and get the competitions up and running that I'm running from the channel.
Dave, somebody did ask in the chat ages ago that they were really enjoying what you were saying and said, do you have your own channel? So I should ask you, where can people find you?
Yeah, so I'm actually a member of a podcast family called Touchline Fracker. So if you type that in, Touchline Fracker, we're on Spotify, Apple, all over the place. And the Spurs part of that is New Spurs Order. Find us on Twitter and Instagram and whatnot, and we go out every week, and probably see me at some of the games as well in the South Stand doing our thing.
Yes. What section you in, Dave?
Usually around about 425 in section 42. Yeah, around there.
What pub do you go in, Dave?
Say again.
What pub do you go in? Or do you go on the ground?
I just usually go on the ground. Yeah, usually go on the ground.
Yeah.
It's a long journey from Croydon, mate.
Yeah.
Well, you can meet up with me and Ellie anytime in the South Stand.
Yeah, I'll let you know.
Dave, my youngest daughters were born at May Day.
Oh. They survived.
Guys, I'm gonna wrap it up there. 2 hours 25 minutes coming up. Thanks. See you in the back room.